get out of your comfort zone in these domains, right? Like, because like if you look from a certain perspective, that's not even software engineer anymore. But the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you learn, and I think the more you learn, when you have another problem next time, the easier it is for your brain to try to come up with like a creative solution. But
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Larry's Post, where we explore the latest trends and innovations in the IT world. And today I have a special guest, Gastón Acosta. He's a Uruguayan rocking in the US. I had the chance to meet him early this year in San Francisco, and I can tell you he's super talented, enthusiastic. He's a creator in many ways, and among all things, a great person. So he has been working with his entire career, I would say, with super challenging problems, big companies, making massive impact in many ways. And so I'm super happy to have you here, Gaston. Welcome. How are
thank
you
you.
doing?
Thank you. Doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, and thank you for also waking up early in the morning. I know it's been probably one of your first meetings today. And
No, no, no. My kid wakes me up at 6 a.m. every day. So
okay,
yeah,
better than
all good. Yeah.
great. Okay, let's jump into today's episode. Could you tell me a little bit about your career? Like, I would love to know from your expertise and how you've been doing. I know you told me you've been going through different big companies, moved to another country, which for me also is like an extra challenge there. So, what led you?
It was a challenge.
Yeah, please go
Yeah.
ahead and tell me.
So, well, I mean, looking back, my first job was at the municipality in Montevideo that you know very well. The biggest depression I had in my life working there. I was trying, I was like 18 years old, trying to change the world, and yeah, they didn't want to change anything. I was using, so this is like 2000 something. I was using a typewriter to, like, every time you need a health certificate, I would like do it for you in a typewriter. They had me. So the thing goes, like, I was finishing high school, so I make it into this competition to get that position in the municipality. And 1 year, right? It takes 1 year, math test, literature, grammar, you name it, everything. And then I join and I get this typewriter, and it's like, okay, you need to create this. And I was like, oh my god. But it was, like everyone would tell you, like, oh, this is like a nice thing because nobody can fire you, and you do very little and you get a lot of money. So I struggled there for a couple years, and I joined a friend of mine in a company that he had, and they were doing. I was already into engineering and
Mhm.
like going to school and all that, and I was already, like, as probably as you and everybody around, passionate about computers and programming and everything, right? But on my own. So then I joined this friend's company, and we were doing basically migrating people from servers to
Mhm.
virtual machines, right?
Yep.
Back then, it was like a huge value add to know to be able to say, oh, my database now runs in this little space, and we know if the memory is high, it's just the database, is not everything. So I worked there for a few years until that company got sold and acquired by another company, like a media company. And then I left that company and I moved into a spin-off of a Uruguayan marketing company.
Mhm.
We were building a tool for marketing, like everything that it's like, online ads. Like you'll have, like, let's say you are a big brand. I was about to name the biggest customer that we had. If, let's say, you are a big brand, like a brand of brands, right? And then you need to advertise in Twitter or
Mhm.
whatever it's called now,
Yeah.
X, and Instagram and Facebook, and then there's private media campaigns and all that. So you'll manage all that through the platform. And so if you're the marketing guy there, you don't need to be accessing 25
Exactly.
different accounts. And there was the early stages of machine learning and trying to, infer if the sentiment of certain comments was good or bad. Like
Yeah.
we struggled with that. And I ended up being the CTO of such company. I joined doing DevOps,
Mhm.
whatever. Like, it was a very early stage, and it evolved, and I ended up being the CTO. Then another friend, I knew he had a company in Uruguay, and he was working for a US company doing software for architecture, and this was like another domain for me, like that I never played with basically. But imagine like when you are in architecture, right, and like all the plans are digital.
Yep.
There's a lot of data in those plans, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing a very high level explanation because I'm not an expert on this, but there's a lot of stuff that people can do with that data.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you have, your here in US they call it like the mechanics, like the electrician comes and says like, oh, here's my diagram for all the wires, and then the firefighters come and say like, oh, here's our diagram and our requirements for all the fire extinguishers and all that. And then those plans may have collisions and stuff like that as well. So something we could do was like deconflict all those systems and many more, right? That's called BIM.
Mm.
It's like a different domain in engineering.
Mhm.
So my friend had that company, and they were offering a lot of services to WeWork
Mhm.
and the office space company. And so I joined them, but I think I joined them after WeWork acquired that company. So WeWork ends up having a core engineering branch in Uruguay. And I didn't realize how important it was until I left WeWork 7 years after. So, well, at some point we were all trying to, like our spirit of like trying to do things right and trying to persevere and thrive and whatever. And we were like, hey, how do we do? Like, I coming from being the CTO of a company, like, where's my team now? And I don't have any team. And the company was aggressively hiring here in US, like they were trying to do the hyper growth and all that. So they closed the branch in Uruguay, and they offered me either to relocate or stay in Uruguay, and I decided to relocate, as many did, and yeah, and then I spent there like 4 more years, and a total of 7 years, and learned a lot, and I like went through a lot of challenges, and then I joined Zipline, this drone company with a heavy focus on healthcare. And yeah, I've been playing the name of the title now. It's like director of infrastructure or director of platform engineering, you name it. Like the fancy word now is like platform engineering. And I've been playing like that role in WeWork and in Zipline as well.
Sweet. Yeah, and thanks for that huge explanation. Like it was a short recap of your whole life, but plenty of challenges there, as you
It's
were saying.
short.
Oh yeah, long story short, exactly. And so I guess you have been dealing with huge responsibilities, not just because companies are huge, but they are also super regulated, and they operate
Yep.
in different countries. As you were saying, while you were here in Montevideo, they were operating in the US, but here and in many other countries. And same thing with Zipline right now. So how is that been for you, like that responsibility while also managing different regulations and different cloud problems across the world?
That's who I am, right? I try to not be who I am
Mm-hmm.
for a while in my career. I'm sure you've heard, probably also in your company, you've heard people saying, I don't want to be a manager.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay at an IC because like being a manager, dealing with people. So I tried that, and it didn't work out until my wife told me like, this is who you are, like
Mm-hmm.
stop the bullshit, like go do it, because like I don't want to be a manager, and then you end up being the CTO of the
Yeah.
freaking company again.
Yeah.
So so I think that's who I am. It's a lot of responsibility. I am like that. Like I try to, whatever I do, I try to do it right,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever I touch, and I try to leave it in a better state than I found it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, here in US, like even from Uruguay through working in for a US company, I was able to access like much bigger problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like as you're saying, like being deployed in multiple countries and having different regulations and all that. We work, for example, like we work. I was there when we turned the company public, which it's a huge challenge, and it was a challenge in particular because of the state of the company by then, going through all the financial challenges and the market challenges, and it's it's a lot of learning and a lot of being humble, and because like usually there's a problem. Even like when we talk about like heavily regulated, sometimes you think you know the answer, but
Yeah, it can be
something
completely
changes and you
different.
don't know it anymore.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I think the challenge for engineering leads
Mhm.
is to bridge the gap, which is I think what I was able to successfully do at WeWork.
Mhm.
It's so we have the legal team trying to get us compliant with SOX, which is a
Yeah.
Sarbanes-Oxley Act. It's like a compliance standard here for public companies. And we have the engineering team trying to figure it out. So yeah, we need to log every time someone touches the database. How do we do it in a way that we can keep working, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the work. So implementing something that can log the details, and that's the easy part. The hard part is how do we bring compliance,
Mhm.
legal,
Mhm.
the CFO, the CTO, everyone together, and we translate the problem in a way that legal can understand, and in a way that the CTO can understand, and in a way
Mhm.
that engineers can understand,
Mhm.
and most importantly, how they understand why they're gonna have to, pay a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna have to suffer a little bit. It's not gonna be as straightforward as it was before. I remember also we had operations in China.
Mhm.
So basically for the platform engineering, we had like everything duplicated in China. There's the firewall and so many different challenges that you have there.
Yeah.
Like there's no like the cloud providers are different and what have you. So yeah, and in Zipline, well, Zipline Aerospace, so another layer
Oh
of
yeah.
regulation. And I'm an airplane pilot myself, so I'm kind of familiar
Mhm.
with the thing, but not necessarily to the level of like
Yeah.
that I'm now. But when I joined, like I knew, like the FAA, I knew the different regulations, I knew how like the
You
certification
probably
process
knew
for
the
an aircraft go.
highlights, not doing or knowing exactly how to do everything right at
Yeah,
the.
but I didn't know my infrastructure was going to be subject to investigations
Mhm.
or could be, right? I was not expecting to. I mean, I liked the challenge, but I didn't see it until I joined. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, my servers are part of a flying
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, and it's awesome. I mean, like I like it, right? It's really interesting, and the more you get out of your comfort zone in
Mhm.
these domains, right? Like because like if you look from a certain perspective, that's not even software engineering anymore.
Yeah.
But the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you learn, and I think the more you learn when you have another problem
Mhm.
next time,
Mhm.
the easier it is for your brain to try to come up with like a creative solution. But at the end of the day, dude, I think the biggest challenge is communication, like trying to get people to come together and you know understand. So I remember, for example, at some at some point that we were trying to get the infrastructure compliant with SOX, I think, and yeah, the head of finance was like coming from a bank
Mhm.
or like a financial institution, completely different to what we was trying to do, and we didn't know how to do it. And right, the biggest challenge has been, and the most interesting challenge maybe from me has been to try to bring people together and
Mhm.
try to get them to align in a certain at a certain point.
Yeah.
There's sometimes the ego plays a role and
Mhm.
people are like, oh no, I'm not gonna explain these books. And yeah, you gotta explain the basics because like people may not know them. And on the other side is like, yeah, we are not gonna ask for the basics because we're gonna look like idiots. And yeah, I think looking back, the
Mhm.
biggest value has been to be able to
Yeah.
be the glue
I and
between different organizations.
and I know that firsthand. Like I told you this before, but to me, you are like one of those people that you can quickly trust on and tell you like you've been super open, super like transparent with me on these few months that we knew each other, and like you told me, and I can feel that you are one of those perfect glues to put team members together and to like get the best out of everyone. So how do you like been doing that, and how you can amplify that trust? Because at the end of the day, people is who makes the company and who makes the problem solution, and your role also involves that, right?
Yep, I think I'm happy that you see it that way. Well, thanks for all the trust side. Like I just know how to scam you. No, I mean I appreciate that you believe in this of like yeah, people are the ones that are building whatever you have,
Hmm.
right? Because like some leaders, some company founders don't think like this, and I often see them, I've been an advisor to companies, and I often, when I say this thing, they are like, oh, this hippie guy again. He's like, dude, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
you have no business if you don't have the people that are
Absolutely.
there. And if those people are depressed, they're gonna do anything, great.
Exactly.
Um, so I think, so maybe I have some natural inclination to be a more like a soft skilled
Hmm.
guy, maybe, or maybe not. Um, uh,
Yeah, but
Definitely, I've been, life has put me in situations where I end up
mhm,
being the one. So maybe let's say I have some
yeah.
inclination, like some skills. Um, the other thing is, through different life
Mhm,
challenges, you
mhm,
learn things, and then
yeah.
you prioritize what you want. And from my perspective, and having had that terrible job, and I'm sorry for my colleagues back then because they were great, but like, yeah, the environment was not great.
Mhm,
Like, I if I remember correctly, back then 70% of the public employees in Uruguay were depressed,
mhm,
like clinically diagnosed. So yeah, not a great environment back then. So I think you prioritize. And for me, what's important is like, okay, I'm choosing to be an employee, or I'm
mhm.
choosing to have my company, and I'm choosing to do this. I'm gonna spend how many hours? Like 40 hours? A joke, like 50. So do I want to make it like a good time, or do I want to make
Exactly.
suffer?
Exactly.
And I don't like suffering. So I think that led me to learn and train myself into how to, try to build healthy teams, and try to like create trust with my
Mhm.
team members, and with my colleagues, and with my upper management and everyone, so we can have a decent time. Because yeah, problems are going to come.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it is right. It is like that. Like, you have no company, no product, no anything, if you don't have those people there, like
Yeah, yeah.
tightening the screws and like fixing the stuff.
Exactly.
So I've taken some, trainings and courses. 11 years of therapy helped as well.
Oh, nice.
Uh, so yeah, so I mean, life puts you through things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that gave me tools
Mhm.
that somehow I've been able to translate into the
Yeah, and
industry.
you have decided to opt in on those two because you can be or naturally have the skills, but if you don't believe on them and you don't like feed them constantly, then that's not going to take you anywhere. And
I'm a person of principles,
mhm.
and I tried not to follow them for a while, and it didn't work out. So I think I follow them, and I'm sorry if, like, like, as I said, like, I try to do something right. Like, there's a situation on the
Yeah.
team, or the situation in the company, and I know it's not the best for everyone. I would call it out,
Mhm.
and we'll have the conversation. And yeah, it's I have my emotions, and I have
Yeah,
fear, and
absolutely.
I'm scared they're gonna fire me. What's gonna happen? I'm a human, but at the end of the day, I think, at least for me,
Mhm.
it pays off, right? That moment of getting out of my comfort
Mhm.
zone, and going like to a place that I've never been sometimes, and trying to have a difficult conversation usually pays off, because yeah, that's usually something that people have been trying to call out, and nobody say bringing it up, and whatnot. And I found myself through the years, like, I think I have 15 years of experience now, and I found myself thinking like, I think, this is not the right combination of
Yeah.
people. I think and then it's like, no, it's just myself. And then at the end of the day, I was right. So I'm rather wrong
Yeah.
than sorry. Yeah.
But I mean, that's totally fair, and that's also it's expertise. Like once you keep growing and keep seeing situations like that, and you start doing associations, and oh, that was similar to this or to that, and then it's better for everyone. So yeah.
You know, something that I've heard a lot, being a mentor, and like a, yeah, mentoring engineers. Something that I've heard a lot is, I don't want to be a manager,
Mm-hmm.
because dealing with people is not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
True. And the other thing that I've heard is, yeah, when I'm coding, right, I get the dopamine shot right away.
Mm.
I fix a problem, boom. When you're a manager, and I have this, right, you never know. Like, you will know 5 years after you move on to the next challenge and whatever, if someone calls and say, hey, I work with this guy. I had someone, so a friend of mine was visiting me,
Mm-hmm.
and he's having a call with his family, and someone in the family gets married, and that person, it's like, oh, Gaston, are you with in Gaston's house? Like, he hired me like 17 years ago. And I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but they remember, like, that's when you know.
Yeah.
Because, like, trying to, like, you probably have it with your company, right? Like, you kind of get a
Yeah.
sense but you will know if you were like a nice person to
Mm-hmm.
work with
Mm-hmm.
after in the next
Yeah,
company.
and you are
That's when
making
you
an
will know.
impact.
In
Like if those people remind you, that's also because you left something on them. If it
Yeah,
was not that good, then they probably learned and they are changing that from that moment where you told. And if they recall you because you did some great job, then it's amazing because that tells you that you
we
are
were
doing the right things.
we were interviewing someone in my current company. We were interviewing someone, and that person, that the new candidate, was gonna be the lead of
Uh
someone
huh.
that's now reporting into me, and that person reporting to me is part of the like key
Mm-hmm.
on the interviewing panel. I know at other companies, I've heard like different stories. Like I wouldn't hire someone to be the lead of
Mm-hmm.
someone without them
Mm-hmm.
talking. If I have them, like
Yeah.
I have the chance, like I wouldn't do like a surprise thing. So, and they during the interview, the employee asks the soon to be like the soon to be manager, have you done something that your current team members can take to their next job? And I was like, that's me. That's me giving you something that you're taking to your next company. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it, right? I work with a lot of people. I'm passionate about computers. You
Mm-hmm.
probably are as well. We probably have the same, bite us when we were kids, like, oh, I want to learn coding or whatever. But then I don't know. I need for that to have a balance with like, okay, I'm having a
Yeah.
relatively decent time at work.
Yeah, I mean, the software or the technology is kind of the means to doing something, but then it's all the company's mission, vision, why you are
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. How?
Also,
Yeah.
people would remember you if you were an asshole.
Oh yeah,
Like you probably have like you remember when you were a kid, your parents talking like, oh,
yeah,
that guy that was my manager, and something happened, and
yeah.
be
Absolutely,
right. That
that's true.
that's yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So
Gaston.
I'm trying to rule by those
Oh,
principles, not being reminded by like the
I
guy that
mean,
was an
no
asshole,
one wants to be there.
rather.
Yeah, absolutely. And each one decides on where you want to stand, right? And I think, like,
Yeah,
from the very little I know you, I can tell that you are not on that zone and you're actually doing great there. Yeah, and I'm curious. Like, this is one question that I ask everyone because you touch base on, like, handling different challenges which comes to pressure and to, like, reaching deadlines, and we all know that in our works we do have to make to some milestones, or we will be in some position we don't like, or we need to get away of that. So how do you manage that work-life balance? I know you've been building some great stuff that goes into water and but how
yeah.
do you manage that stress, that pressure? How do you get the balance right on your life?
It wasn't like this the whole time. I wasn't able to manage it for a while, um, until I learned. I think, yeah. I mean, at the beginning of my career, I was like trying to be successful,
Hmm.
and I didn't know how to manage, how to balance,
Hmm.
and I ended up like in unhealthy situations and like burnout.
Hmm.
And I guess then I learned, and I remember in particular, I learned a lot with someone that's now a friend of mine. He was the chief information security officer of like a past company, and I think he was so, dude, like we were going through like a managerial ordeal, like a challenge, like having to let go people, having to restructure. It was like a roller coaster,
Hmm.
and he was so fucking centered, and I was like, dude, I, when are you gonna freak out?
Yeah. How do you manage
And
to
he
keep
was like,
on going? Yeah.
and he was like, yes, huh, we are gonna have to do this, right? And I was like, okay, everything's fine. If you feel it's fine. And so I learned. So the I think, well, I think first you need to have interests
Hmm.
in life, right? And work can't be the only thing.
Hmm.
Like work can't be the only thing. Family can't be the only thing. Your hobby can't be the only thing. You
Absolutely.
need to have a balance and have interests. I have a lot of them, maybe too many. Um, I like building stuff. I built two boats already. I restored another boat. I'm an airplane pilot, and I think, but like the mind has a lot of energy, and the 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 more opportunities you create in life for that mind to focus on good stuff, the less likely it is that the mind's gonna go chase the
Mm-hmm.
problems, which is like a survival thing we have, right? When I was becoming a pilot, like all this psychology stuff that you learn, right? Mind is always trying to look for the problem. Like it's a survival thing. What's gonna go wrong? So the more this worked for me, right? The more activities or the more opportunities I have for my mind to go jump on, like, oh, what's the next boat gonna look like, or well, what adventure are we gonna do, instead of like what can go wrong,
Yeah.
am I,
Yeah.
do I have something, I have a thing here, it's gonna
Yeah.
explode, whatever. So I think that worked, and I forced myself into not overworking. Like
Mm-hmm.
and also, like when you are I have the luxury to be uh, leading two teams now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a responsibility on how I, present myself every day.
Yeah.
If I'm a burnout, stressed out manager, I can't, like a team is like a human being,
Yep.
right? And you usually find the culture of the team being the personality of the
Oh yeah.
manager. And I have a responsibility as well, right? I cannot show up all beaten up and burn out and whatever. Although I try to be transparent, but I need to, you know, I can't allow myself with my team, maybe with my manager I do, but with my team I can't allow myself to be. I am very transparent and I
Yeah.
express my frustrations,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's very constructive, but I don't do it from a place of,
Yeah, big team
dude,
or
like
yeah.
what else?
Mm-hmm.
I try to always come with like hope
Yep.
and an optimistic
Yeah.
approach, and I think that's key.
I love that.
When I was flying, I had this flight instructor that would tell me, I would be like, people get stressed. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, pilots, we it's not like you're fearless. Like, it's a risk if you're fearless, right?
Yeah.
You usually have fear, and there are things that can go wrong, and you're thinking about them
Yep.
as you're flying, right? Then you're flying with your family,
Yep.
or I'm sailing my family in a boat that I built. I'm thinking about things,
Mm-hmm.
but learning how to manage
Mm-hmm.
your emotions, it's key, because like then, it's a vicious circle, and you can use it for the good
Yeah,
or for the bad,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? If you use it for, so if we are going through a challenge and I try to influence you in a positive way, and maybe and then you come like with this more like relaxed attitude, and then I'm more relaxed, or the other way.
Yeah.
If I'm all stressed out and then you get stressed out and then I get more stressed out. I had this flight instructor and I was taking an exam, and in the exam you need to do like a stall, basically like make the plane stop flying and it
Mm.
falls. And I was scared about that, and my CFI, my flight instructor, goes like, Gaston, it doesn't matter if you're scared, like it matters if your instructor tells. So you
Yeah, that I mean,
play it, make it so, pretend everything's fine. And
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you cannot
sometimes,
freak out
I
yeah, you need to be under control, and then it's just when good things will arise and you will have that problem become an opportunity and see how you can move on and like not get just frustrated and more frustrated and like not getting anywhere. So it's
I think it's a combination, right? It's a little bit of a little bit of I got this,
mm-hmm.
we got this,
Yeah.
but it's also scary, but we got
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like also you don't want to give your team or your kids or your anyone the sense of like, I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, this sounds like super safe but it's risky.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of like, yeah, this is challenging,
Mm-hmm.
could hurt,
Yep.
but we got
Yeah.
this, but I'm scared, but we got
Yeah. Yeah.
this.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of being respectful of the situation and conscious, but at the same time not paralyzing and not like getting freaked out. So yeah, I can feel that. And I know
Yeah.
we are running out of time, Gaston, so I want to be also respectful of your time. Is there any last advice or comments or anything you want to share with the audience or with yourself in being loud here? If not, like, I don't know, I'm super happy again to have you here to be talking, to share your moments and your life. So yeah, anything you want to share?
Hmm.
I mean, you
I'm
already
not
shared
sure.
a lot of
I,
things.
I shared a lot, but I think, if anything, I would encourage
Mhm.
your audience, like if someone,
Mhm.
is having this, I talk about a lot about like being this or being that,
Mhm.
be you,
Yeah.
because that's the only thing that works. And yeah, and on that same vein, I would encourage, like people that have the chance to manage like a big organization
Hmm.
to allow those opportunities for people to be themselves
Hmm.
and not like try to box them into like this is you're an IC, you cannot do
Mm.
more, or you're a manager and you cannot do this or you cannot do that. um, it often works better when you have like a very diverse and
Hmm.
team and you allow them to be themselves and like contribute. And you need to box the staff sometimes for compliance and for
Yeah,
um, the papers. But
be the
I
better
think
you.
that's the morale of everything I said, right? Like in my career, I was trying to be here or be there or be this or be that until I said, like, you know what, I'm gonna be me, and this is who I am. Inevitably,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be the one calling out things
I love that.
and saying things, and trying to fix things. So yeah,
Sweet. Thanks for that. And yeah, I will
no
echo
problem.
that because that's the only way. Like when you are you, that then it's only when things happen because you are not forcing anything to happen. You are just being you. So love that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Okay,
for this
man.
time.
Amazing.
Yeah, and have a
No
great
problem.
day.
Anytime.